So one thing I don't like about this rock slider is that it's got this cage thing to protect the catalytic converter on the exhaust. But because mine has been modified, there's just this this big gap in here. So it hangs 2 inches lower than it needs to. And what that means is that this thing grabs all kinds of stuff when I'm crawling over bumps in the road. You can see under here, it's all scratched and rusted already. That's only from a couple drives, really. So I want to modify that. So let's see what we can do to change it. So this is from the underside. This is the cage right here. And you can see that this plate hits the frame of the truck. So I think I need to cut 2 inches off of this so that this whole thing will move up. This bracket is bolted to the frame here. And then it turns this L shape down and bolts to the rock slider cage thingy. Well, if I'm going to move it up, I think if I take this bracket and flip it over so that the L shape goes up, then I can move everything up 2 inches and connect these bolts up there. This shape, I'm not really sure if it will fit, so I may need to cut off part of this in order to make it fit, you know, on these bolts and not hit this. So that's what we'll do on this side. On this side, over here, I need to, this is our connection from the cage to the rock slider. So what I think I'm going to do is cut it off here, and then cut these shorter, and then bend them down until they're 2 inches lower, and we'll connect with this, and then I'll re-weld it. But you can see here I've got some lines drawn on there. I think that's where I need to cut it in order to bend it down and connect with the rock slider and re-weld it right there, and that'll bring it, our clearance will be 2 inches higher. So that's the plan. Okay, here's the rock slider. As you can see, this also catches a lot of dirt and mud. That's gonna rust if that stays on there. Anyway, alright, I'm gonna see if I can cut this with my portaband rather than grind it. I think I can. So I got about 4 inches of it. I need to get another couple inches, but need to figure out an angle I can do that from. Okay, I'm going to try and finish with the Sawzall. The blade is actually a little wider than the bandsaw, so I kind of got to widen this cut a little bit. This thing wants to tip over on me. Remove that. That works. Okay, so now we're back under the vehicle, and I'm going to remove this and see if I can flip it. Yeah, so I got to move this hole, which, if you can remember, I had to do once before. You can see what that looks like. I had to notch it out because it wouldn't line up. So now I gotta notch it further. Okay, so I just temporarily put the slider back in there, and so I could see like where this bracket went. That's where it went before, and so now I can kind of see where these bolts are going to be. And so if I flip this over where I'd like them to be, I can see that it's going to be like that, and the slots in the bracket do not line up with the bolt holes on the frame at all. Okay, I figured something out. With this bracket, it normally sits like this. I want it to sit like this, but it's going to push these slots back about an inch, which means they don't line up with these bolts. But that's okay, because I'm going to cut this whole cage thingy free from the rock slider, so when I weld it back on, I'll just push it back that distance, which is about an inch, and then everything will line up. So all I need to do is just notch out one of the slots in this so that it fits over the two bolts. It'll just flip over, and then I can move on to this. So I'm going to start by moving that hole. I bet you would like to see how I do that. So I need to move this hole. I have a little black line on there. It shows where the threaded hole in the frame is. So I need to move this over. This is getting kind of weird, but the only way I know to move a hole is with a jigsaw. Okay, I think I can fit this narrower Sawzall blade in there. It sure is long. Hopefully I don't start cutting the vise here. Taking chunks out. Okay. Okay. Well, I moved the hole. See? But I kind of feel like I should fill all this in so the bolt has something to grab onto. Okay, so we're going to start modifying this part of the rock slider, and the way I've figured out that I'm going to do this is I took my tape measure and I'm measuring from the slider, the back of the slider, to the other side of this cage here, and it's 13.5. And so we're going to cut it loose here, and then we're going to cut these shorter to that line there on each one of these. And then I've got to relief cut this, and then we're going to heat this up and bend it flatter until this point measures 13.5 inches from here. So that'll bend out and it'll get longer, so to speak, until it gets out to 13.5. And that's how I'll know I'll have the correct shape. Then when we weld it on, I'm going to slide it back 3/4 of an inch, and that's what these marks are. So this will line up here, and that'll make it so that these bolts line up with this bracket when it bolts to the underside of the frame. Okay, this is one of those goofy situations where it's like I'm pretending to be a blacksmith, but I'm not. That's not an anvil. This is not really a torch. But we're just gonna, I mean, it is a torch. It's just not what you would use. So I'm just gonna give it a shot. I've got this piece of angle iron in there. I've got some blocks of wood. I'm just gonna see if I can heat this up and smack it with the hammer and get this to flatten out. Let's give it a shot. Well, let's just see what happens. I think that's got to be close. Okay, so this is just a test fit. I just bolted the sliders back up there. And this one, I've got my bracket over on that other side over there. It fits. I had to do a little bit of grinding and a little bit of messing with it, but it fits now. And this is not welded. I'm just seeing how everything fits. I might have to tweak it a little bit more, but for the most part, I'm about ready to tack weld those. Okay, so I've got everything laid out after much tweaking, and I've got it laid out now just on some blocks to get it to line up how I want, and making sure everything's kind of level with each other. And so now I'm going to weld these. Okay, we've got it all welded up, and I threw some textured paint on there just to protect it from rust. Not that I'm trying to make it look pretty, nobody's going to see it. But I think we're ready to put it on the truck. We've got it mounted on there, and as you can see, that whole basket thing doesn't hang as low. Everything fits good. I'm trying to see a little bit here how close we are to the exhaust. Sits pretty level. I'm happy with it. Much better.